Well, welcome everybody. It is wonderful to have you here to join in listening in on a conversation that I am privileged to have this afternoon with Pastor Jan Bros of Abbey Way here in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And we're just going to launch into just a brief conversation, a chance just to get to know each other and have you get a chance to get to know Jan and a little bit about Abbey Way as well. This won't be hard charging and in depth. We have agreed that will come months from now. Right? We'll ease into that. But this is just a high level chance just to say hi and just some basics. So first question, Jan, for you, first invitation is a softball. This is a classic softball. I think you'll hit this out of the park. Tell us just a bit about yourself, where you've come from, and something about your family of origin that would be interesting for us to know about, and we'll go from there.
You know, when I think about my where I have come from, I grew up as a Roman Catholic, and I had a very devout mom who nurtured me in my faith and paved the way for me. And a marker event for me as a girl was that my mom died when I was 11. And so it was in that place and time that I guess I learned, because she had given me a solid foundation of church and God and spirituality in a very, childlike way, that I found my kind of my heart for God and found myself seeking. Not that it was all easy, because it was very, at that point after she died, a dark place, but she gave me a lot. And that, in combination with some Benedictine sisters, I was in a Benedictine parish, and they took me under their wing, and they were just lovely women of faith that gave me so much of themselves that I kind of held in my heart for a very long time, until 15 years ago.
Right.
So that's a very broad, I'm married. I have 4 adult children. 3 of them are married. I have 8 grandchildren. I have a schnauzer. So I like living life. I'm at a good point in life with lots of family around and ways of being together that are very enjoyable.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. As I'm coming to learn out in this part of the country, not being a native of this area myself, I'm aware that there are regional allegiances, one might say. And so I'd be curious where it was that you were connected to this Benedictine community and where you grew up.
Well, I grew up in St. Louis Park. So it was in a parish called Most Holy Trinity. And I later attended the College of Saint Benedict in St. Joseph. And so it was in that I would have always said that I was connected to the priory, which was in St. Paul, but the mother house of the Benedictines, in the nuns in Minnesota, of course, are in St. Joseph, Minnesota. So they are my friends.
Amen. Well, and that will play well. That's got its own rivalry, right? That keeps you out of the Badger Gopher headache. But so you're a local West Sider. Yeah. Yes. Fantastic. And you have been pastor of a faith community for a bit. Mm-hmm. Tell us how that happened. How did you move from St. John into ministry, and how did ministry turn into your most recent pastorate with Abbey Way?
Yeah, there was a moment of time as a child. It was right before my mom's death, and we were visiting a shrine, a church that had a prayer box in front of it. And I remember my mom gave to me a slip of paper to put in the prayer box. And, I was almost 11. So I didn't just put the slip of paper, I opened it up. I wanted to know what it said. And on that slip of paper, it was a prayer that my mom had that her children would go into ministry. Now, at
my
that point, it's all full of lots of stuff. But I thought that would have been a Catholic nun, religious. I would go into religious life because I was Roman Catholic. But after my husband and I were married, we left the Roman Catholic Church and started going to a Lutheran congregation, and found our home there with our kids for a season of time. And it just, I did lots of lay ministry and just found a real connectedness both to God and like a certain gifting that I'm like, I like doing this. And stumbled into a contemplative prayer community that talked about the mystics, which were people I knew from my childhood that I was bringing forward. And they talked about spiritual direction. So I became trained as a spiritual director. There's just one thing after another, but I really didn't have opportunity to even think of myself as a pastor until later, because that was not a place that women could serve. So I was grateful for the opportunity that I had in my 30s to go to seminary and then be called to a position in a very large non-denominational church as a pastor of pastoral care, and served there for 9 years in that capacity. And I loved what I did, and I got lots of different opportunity to be with people. But I was sort of burnt out from that experience and wanted something that would embody more the rhythms and the practices and the relationships of what I knew were the places that gave me life and the people that I ministered along with, because I ministered along with a lot of lay people. It was just like something happened. And I knew that there was something about the circles of how we heard God that was essential to how I thought about what church was. And became connected with a denomination that supported people, both men and women, in church planting. And I visited my friends up in St. Joe, the Benedictine nuns, and one of the sisters said, Jan, what you're talking about is the Rule of Benedict. I went, it is? And she gave me the rule, and I went, oh my gosh, 1,500 years later, here I am. And all my, Sister Agatha and Sister Agathine, all these sisters that were part of my childhood, was like, they were all yelling and cheering. She got it. She finally got it. And the support of that particular denomination, and a lovely group of risk takers who went, yeah, I want that too. I want whatever that is. Don't know exactly what that means. 15 years ago, we started meeting and started doing some different ways of being together, and morphed and changed and leaned into the rule to give us some help and a container in which the life of God could grow. And so here I am 15 years later, having another sort of conversation with a tradition that actually understands some of the language and some of the ways that we have endeavored to live into these last 15 years. So that's how I got here. It's just kind of like a big circle.
That's magnificent. Well, and actually it's a great endorsement of the rule, right? That something that was coming to you instinctually was in fact what had been codified in the rule, which suggests it's just about people's natural instincts to be in relationship with the holy.
Yes. Yep.
Right. Yeah. And you use the language of container for room to grow. So it's not constricting, it's supportive and expansive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's fantastic. And it's so ordinary. I think that's, it doesn't lift up the flash or the event or trying to make something happen or perform, where I've come from is the performance, is the thing. And it's like, no, it's in the ordinary. God comes and speaks and is with us as individuals, but also with the people, with God's people. And wanting to make space for that and learn how to do that together and learn how to look each other in the eye and listen to each other and respond. And in the midst of it, God's Spirit comes, and we notice and we can name it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. Well, and we do have shared language around this notion of that sort of sin place when heaven and earth meet. Mm-hmm. But it is true in the Episcopal Church, it may be that our imagination tends to assume that heaven and earth only meet at mountaintops. And one of the great reminders, right, is heaven and earth meet like when we roll up our sleeves and get mud under our fingernails. Heaven and earth meet when we celebrate, the birth of children, when we celebrate good death.
Yes.
All those places are spots for the breakthrough of the holy, right? And your community, as I've seen it written, described, and verbalized, described, really tries to just ground people in the depth of daily life.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That's how I understand what you're up to.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, and in a lot of ways, that seems much harder than sticking to esoteria and the assumption that God is so other that, so you're really pushing folks back into the reality of their lives and saying, no, that's the place to be.
Yeah. And it puts us into a place of vulnerability with ourselves and with each other and with God, that we're not looking for God out here. We're actually going, oh, right here, I have to pay attention to this, and I have to pay attention to you. And so we're always like in that place of being invited into that open vulnerability. And that's hard.
Right.
That calls, but there's a gift in that is good in the long haul. And I think the Benedictines, through the centuries, have given us, the church, that gift, and they have modeled that for us. And then, of course, there's other places where that is lived into too. But monastic communities have been a place where that has been the greenhouse that can grow, so we can, taste the fruit.
Exactly. Well, and so what's your sense, pastoring Abbey Way at this point, about what this fall looks like, where there are places of excitement, maybe even places of uncertainty or trepidation, because we're all kind of wading into a new thing here, where we don't have a written contract, we don't have a whole bunch of escape clauses. What we've agreed to do is walk together as people of faith who happen to be coming together as two faith communities to share a life together.
Yes.
And that assumes some uncertainty, but it also leaves a lot of room for wonder. Yes. I know some people love wonder. Other people, wonder drives them crazy. So what are you hearing from your folks? And what are you feeling in yourself, actually?
I think God gave us a couple great gifts in the last couple of years as a faith community. We went through a discernment process of how we fit or don't fit with the denomination that we originally began with. And that really created some good dialogue space for us to talk about who we are and who God is calling us to be. And that just kind of set up openness. We actually changed our vision statement. We have a vision statement that is based in Jeremiah 6:16, where it says, "This is what the Lord says. Stand at the crossroads and look, ask for the ancient paths, ask where the good way is and walk in it, and you will find rest for your souls." Like we've been in this place. And then of course, COVID and everything changed. And so I think we were primed and ready. Like this, the way that I've talked about it these last months is that God has been doing something in us to make a way for something new. And when the opportunity, and there's lots of places where this relationship has been built in the last few years, as those doors kept opening, it's like it was such a natural place of just kind of knocking and asking and seeing if there was more. And so I am so excited, like as I have seen and experienced the doors opening and relationships that have our people who are coming towards us with welcome, and Abbey Way's like, okay, like this is like this, after 15 years, and you're kind of going, really? And it's like, really? And we've been in, this is the wonder of it all. 2 years ago, we were in Whipple Chapel with our Advent Sing. We had been in Whipple Chapel, and we had brought our original Advent songs and sang there together as a community, because we do that every Advent. And last year we streamed that from the nave last December. And it was just like these steps of moving towards. And so we're excited. There's so much overlap between St. Mark's and Abbey Way. I mean, we're really small. We're very intergenerational. We have lovely musicians that are acoustic, and so we bring a different sound and just a simple liturgy. But there's this wonder and beauty of St. Mark's, and all of the people and all the resource and the way that we hold the liturgical calendar. There's just I'm just anticipating so many places of overlap, and learning from each other, and opening to new relationships and new conversations and new discoveries of how God is in this time and in this place. So
couldn't agree more, and so wonderfully said. It's been such a treat to have you walking with us in the ministry team for however long it's been. It's been some time now since we first started that. Mm-hmm. And of course, it's been wonderful to meet some of your folks in our virtual spaces with the newcomer stuff and Episcopal 101 and faith formation. And what a wonderful group of people. We're just excited to get to know better and to shape each other mutually. And really kind of the beauty of sort of the non-contractual reality here, just being in relationship means that we both get to practice hospitality, and we both get to practice being guests.
Yes.
And right, because there will be such wonderful crossover. You all, of course, Abbey Way will be hosting public worship at 10:30 on Sundays in Whipple Chapel, at the same time that 10:30 Eucharist is happening in the nave. And our assumption is that people will follow the longings of their heart on any given day, and be in the space that they need to be in for that time. And we'll get to experience each other's hospitality, and I think just in that, learning that we're each just trying to do the best we can to be in relationship and see where God leads us, I think will bind us together, if for no other reason, out of the practice of mercy and forgiveness, as we learn how to do this together. So I just wonder, if any sense for you, if you were to be thinking 6 or even 12 months from now, your greatest hope for what this first year of a life together might mean for all of us. Do you have any sense for how you would respond to that? Greatest hopes for this first year?
I've consistently gotten the sense that God is at work doing a new thing. And I see it springs up before you. But, it's like I am anticipating, noticing and naming and watching whatever that grow. And, there's some practical places of just, relational, getting to know each other and resourcing each other and figuring out where the edges of that are, that I'm looking forward to. But I think for me, the thing that I'm so excited about, because I've experienced it now for the last couple of years as I walk this walk with you and with St. Mark's, that it's like there's this anticipation of God's work among us, that I'm like, oh my gosh, what is this going to be? So I'm really excited, Paul. I really am. And I'm a pastoral caregiver, so I don't get real much. And this is like, oh my word, God is doing something. God is doing something.
Right.
And I'm really excited about watching whatever that is grow.
Right. Well, one of the things that we share in common then is our suspicion of enthusiasm, right? So anytime we get enthusiastic about something, we think, well, something must be here because I'm feeling a feeling I don't get to feel very often. So yeah, we'll follow that together, and I have every confidence because as you know, I'm heading off on a sabbatical July through October, and so much of what the cathedral will be doing as well is turning over stones and doing some of its own deep discernment. And so to be doing that kind of deep discernment in partnership with another faith community, I would hope that we could cross-pollinate and even do a little bit of dreaming together.
Yes, yeah.
Because I think we have so much to share with each other. And I certainly know, having, like I said, had the privilege to walk with you for over a year now, just what it has meant for me to just watch you in action and to glean your wisdom and to even have you role model just a little bit about how you do the hard stuff in terms of change leadership, and just non-anxious and prayerful, and laying really ourselves in the heart of God and trusting that God's going to make things happen if we're attentive. Yeah. And you just role model that so beautifully. And we have already been blessed by having you a part of the community, and we know that the community coming alongside you in Abbey Way will do likewise for us. And I just pray that's reciprocated from the cathedral, and that as we stumble our way forward, that we do so with a whole lot of love and gentleness and appreciation for each other.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, I can't thank you enough for this time, Jan. I want to let everybody know we'll hear more from each other, and sure look forward to this launch of a new thing this fall, and we'll spend the summer laying some of the groundwork for that. So do hold this endeavor in prayer. Know that St. Mark's is holding Abbey Way in prayer, and I trust that is coming right back at us manyfold, and we'll look forward to being together again here soon. So take good care of you, and thank you, all of you, for watching and listening. We'll be back again soon. Yeah, take good care.